Maybe I'll do intro next time after people hear that I'm going to be kind of regular on it.
You're listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 22nd episode of the Theology of Games podcast.
The double dose.
The double dose. And we are so glad you're joining us. We are going to have some fun discussion tonight about all things board games. But let me introduce my co-host. Wait, I'm Scott Firestone. I didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
Firestone.
Hey, Scott Firestone.
What?
I said, hey, Scott Firestone.
Hey, that's Jeremiah Isley right there.
That's
my partner
me.
in crime.
How's it going, everybody? And we have some cool news. Joining us once again for now and forever is Mr. AJ Skifstad. Welcome to the show on a permanent basis, sir.
Woohoo!
Hey, I'm glad to be here. This is really exciting. So, hey, everybody.
We should make it Facebook official.
Do it.
I don't know how you do that.
So Theology of Games is engaged to AJ Skifstad or something?
That just got really weird really fast.
Relationship status change.
Okay. AJ won a Thunderdome battle. He beat out a lot of other contestants.
It's true.
Human and non-human to join us, and we're glad he's here.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, AJ.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So that's not the only big news we have. So first of all, we've got a great episode coming up. We've got all your favorite segments, including Fire and Ice and Fill in the Blank and the what I like to call the not so lightning round. But we're going to do, before we get to that, we're going to talk about some news, and some of the biggest news in the world of Theology of Games is releasing. We're dropping it here. This is the first place that anybody's going to hear this news. Should we tell them?
Do it.
Do it.
All right. So am I doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here's the deal. We have signed up for and registered to have a booth at Origins Game Fair coming up this June in Columbus, Ohio, which is ridiculously exciting. So yeah, we will have a booth within the exhibit hall, and from there, we're going to have a chance to meet all of our listeners, all of our readers, and hopefully meet new fans and new listeners and readers of the blog and of the show. And we'll be able to give you up to the minute coverage from within the hall, because we'll be there 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but from open to close. We can't afford
surprise for everyone.
We can't afford a hotel, so we'll be sleeping in the
I've done it before. You just lay under the table, under the cloth that's over the table, and no one ever knows you're there.
Right. You just get a pillow under there and you're good to go. But yeah, we're super excited about this. It's going to be a great time. I've enjoyed Origins for many years now, and really excited to be a part of the show for sure. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely excited to be going back to Origins this year, but having a lot more to do there. Getting to meet some people, have some people come to us is going to be very, very cool. We've been hunting people down for several years now, and it's just going to be awesome to set up some times for some developers and game designers to come see us and tell us about their new games.
I wish I was coming.
But wait.
You
might be.
It's a possibility.
So if you go to Indiegogo right now, we'll put a link in the show notes as well. But we'll be running an Indiegogo campaign starting soon here. I don't know exactly how far out from the time this episode releases that's going to happen. But if you go there, we're going to have a preview page up, and it'll launch very soon. And if you want to support us so we can have a hotel room and we can bring Scott along, he can come out to the show and be a part of us being at Origins, you can certainly do that by contributing in whatever small way you find possible or within your warm heart to contribute to us. And we'll be very glad. We're going to try to partner with some of our friends within the industry in terms of funding and things like that, selling some ad space here on the show or on the site or things like that. Just little ways that we can kind of connect within the industry and the folks that we know so well. So we're hoping that it'll be successful. We're hoping that it's not just me sitting at a table with nothing to do, but if that's what it gets to, I'll be there, and you can come up and say, "What in the world are you doing here?"
You know what?
Let's not do that. Let's get people to Origins.
Listen, we were just talking the other day about our collection of the WizKids Pirate Pocket Model ships. If anything, we're going to be handing those out to people, okay?
Or we'll be playing on the provided table that we get. We'll have the game set up. We'll have people come by, play Pirates with us. It'll be great.
Yeah, well, we've got so many unpunched ships, we can just give them out. People love it.
Absolutely.
How sad.
It's the worst.
So yeah, that's the big news right now for us in Theology of Games land, and lots of work going into preparing all the things that go into that. So super excited. I'm incredibly pumped for it. It's going to be a blast.
So we wanted to talk to you guys about all the different ways that you can connect with us. It used to just be, we started this with a dream and a blog called theologyofgames.com. And we posted lots and lots of stuff on there, but it was all written. And so we kind of thought, how can we do this in various ways to also interact with people? And we still do the blog stuff. Just this morning, as we're recording this, we launched an Element double take review of Element, the abstract game, and tomorrow it's going to be Chameleon, and so the blog is still going strong. But we also have other avenues. Jeremiah has been doing this super fast podcast. What episode are you on now, Jeremiah?
I just released episode 72.
That's crazy. So this is just kind of a quick, like, as he's driving somewhere, or, you know, just a super fast, here are my fast thoughts on something called That's How I Roll. And so he has been keeping that up for 70 episodes, which is super impressive. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel where we've been releasing quick 3-minute,
2-minute, 3-minute,
9-minute, whatever, reviews of games that we'll throw out there to just give you kind of a quick idea. Here's what it looks like. Here are our fast thoughts on it, and then go to the blog or somewhere else for longer thoughts on it. And then we've also launched into this new app that's called Anchor, and we got in on the ground floor thanks to Jeremiah, and we have had daily information, discussion, news, breaking news on there. It's called Board Games FM, powered by theologyofgames.com. And we have, seriously, like, daily content. Today we talked about lengthy 2-player games, and we just kind of go back and forth, and people can call in on it and interact with us. It's really fun, and it allows us to be really nimble, because before, if something was breaking, it was like, oh, who has time to write up a blog post? You can always post on Twitter or something like that quickly, but we can also do a quick piece on Anchor FM, and boom, it's out there and spread across the cosmos. So we have so many ways to interact with you guys. There's no shortage.
Yeah, and if you're not hip to the Anchor app, it's a very, very cool app, and they don't even pay us to say that, even though we've tried. But it's a great way for you to interact with us. You can leave us voice messages that we can actually put within the show and respond to and things like that. So it's a great, great feature, great app. And I think today's episode is number 127, I want to say. Yeah. So we have been cranking those out since like late September last year. And I mean, pretty much daily. You know, sometimes we'll take a couple days off on a weekend or something like that, but we're at least getting about 4 to 6 of them out in a week. So definitely check that out if you are hungry for more content about board games. And if you want to contribute to a conversation, that's a great way to do it, because we do stuff so frequently, we can actually have more of a conversation that goes back and forth. All right, I say we get on, we stop yammering and get on with our regular segments and talk about some actual games instead of just the stuff that we're doing. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So we'll still be yammering, is what you're saying,
Well,
but just about games.
True.
Yes. It depends on what your definition of yammering is.
There's a good and a bad kind. It's the good kind.
All right, this is the good kind. All right, so let's jump into what's on the table. And we still haven't renamed this segment, and I hate it. But this is the segment in which we discuss the games that have been on our tables. So let's go ahead. AJ, why don't you start us off with this one and tell us what you've been playing lately?
Absolutely. I'll just kind of give you a list of them, and then I'll just talk about a few of them. I've been playing Thunderstone Quest, Puerto Rico, Lord of the Rings deck building, Biblios, Infinite City, Descent, and Lancaster. And I'm always playing Crokinole. That game just never leaves the table. But I'll talk about the big one first. And
it's true. The one- it's hard to play around his Crokinole board. Like,
no, it really.
It really hurt.
It's always on the table. You got to take it off to play a game. So another game. But the big one I've been playing is Thunderstone. It was recently just sent out to backers by AEG Games, and it's a giant deck building game, and it literally is giant. It was 17 pounds of awesome gaming, tons of cards, and so it's a great deck builder. It's the third edition of this game. The original was Thunderstone, which I think came out in 2009, maybe 10. And then they made a Thunderstone Advanced, and now Thunderstone Quest, which the name is so misleading. We've talked about it on Anchor. It really is not. You're really not questing. They basically give you different scenarios to set up throughout the game so that you can get to see all your cards and the way that the cards are going to work together. Then when you're all done playing through all those scenarios, if you want to go back, you'll remember how some of those cards work together, and you can create your own scenarios. Just like you would in Dominion, you can pick and choose the cards. So Quest is a little misleading. Does it, ruin the game for me at all? Not a bit. So Thunderstone Quest has been amazingly fun. I like it way better than some of the other deck builders that are out there, and having a ton of fun with that. An older game I've been playing, two older games actually, Puerto Rico and Lancaster have been a ton of fun lately. Puerto Rico is a great, it's kind of like a resource management game, I guess, area development. And if I don't know, I think most people have probably played this. If they're listening to this podcast, would you agree that most people have played Puerto Rico? Or
actually, it's so old. I wonder if some people are like, I've never played that game.
That's possible. There's an app version of it, and it's actually really good. It represents the game really well. Yeah, so maybe if you can't get a hold of a copy, an actual copy, look for the app, because it is a very good interpretation of the game for sure.
Yeah, and it's a really fun game. It's butt ugly, but it is good. It is a really good game. And I talk about, I was going to talk about Lancaster, but instead of doing that, I'll take one more minute to talk about a game that's kind of different than the two of those. I'll talk about Descent, which I talk about frequently on the Anchor app and Board Games FM. Descent is a cool minis game where you've got one person playing as the Overlord if you're not using the app, and you've got several heroes that are out on this gridded out, puzzled out map. And each map is made different depending on the quest or scenario that you're in. So the whole idea is you're probably going to be trying to capture some sort of item or something. The Overlord's going to try and snatch it up from you, or he's going to try and leave the board, or you're going to try and leave the board before something happens. Always a different scenario, always a different quest. And it's set in this fantasy world. And it's really, really an awesome miniatures game with some dice rolling, a lot of cards that you're gaining over time with weapons and abilities. And the nice part about this game is if you're really not into the fantasy theme, Fantasy Flight, who created this game, reinvented it probably about 2 years ago now, and they put a new theme to it, which is Star Wars. It's Star Wars Imperial Assault, which Jeremiah, I believe you own. Do you not?
Oh, yes, I do.
And you guys have been playing that, right?
Oh, yeah. We've gotten a few missions in, and it's outstanding. It's wonderful.
Yeah, so if you're not into the fantasy theme with the miniatures questing, then you can always go with the sci-fi theme and pick up Imperial Assault, which is a relatively new game. So I don't know. That's what's on my table. What about you guys?
The other day at Target, I found Star Wars Destiny on clearance for only $15, and it was not something that was on my radar because I need another collectible game like a hole in the head, and yet here it was, $15, and I thought, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so my 10-year-old and I played it, and we had a lot of fun, and I was like, oh, dang it. I do not want to have to enjoy this and put more money into it. But it really is funny. You're rolling dice and triggering cards, and one of the things I like about it, it's not just dice and cards, but there's a lot of timing that goes into it because you decide when you're going to roll those dice and kind of activate them. But even when you do that, you still have to wait an entire other turn to do anything with them. So that might give your opponent an opportunity to mess with those dice and send them off the board or whatever. So there's lots of timing things in it, and that's one of the things I really like about it, is kind of waiting, bluffing, wondering if he has something he can spend to hurt you, wondering when to pounce. I like it a lot. Ethnos is another one that's been on the table, but I think Jeremiah is going to talk about that, so maybe we'll talk about that one later. Eldritch Horror, I traded for this, and my 10-year-old and I just started playing it. We've only played a few turns of it, and it is a big, sprawling, long, crazy game about H.P. Lovecraft, and you're trying to close gates and keep bad things from coming in. But one of the things I like is that they put a ton of variety into the cards, and so for an example, there are cards that are conditions, so you might get blessed or cursed, or you might go into debt or things like that. And when certain things trigger, you actually flip those cards over, and there's something else on the back that will happen to you. And they're different. So two people might have a blessed condition, but when you flip it over, different things will happen to them. So I really like that about the game. So we've just kind of scratched the surface on that one, but it's quite a bit of fun. And then just this afternoon, I got a box in the mail, and I opened it up, and what was it? My Gloomhaven insert from Broken Token. I'm not exaggerating. As we're recording, I am sitting at a table that is surrounded, except for my computer, by Gloomhaven junk. It's on this table. It's on another table. My wife has been glaring at me, and I said, honey, I promise the insert's on its way, and this will all go away. There's so much stuff with this game that this insert is going to be a lifesaver. So I can't wait to put it together and organize my game. Who ever thought that someone like me would be excited about organization? But here I am.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, I just put together my Imperial Assault organizer, and it is so much needed, and it saves your life because it's just a hot mess. There's no insert for that game. Like there's an insert that is just like a channel.
Oh, the Fantasy Flight typical one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I threw that away, and I just had an empty box, it was just, yeah.
Right.
But that's cool. I can't wait to see pictures of the Gloomhaven insert. It's
the engineering that goes into this. I can't imagine how much time it takes to figure out everything that's in the game and then how to make it fit smartly and well.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Good stuff. Very cool. Did you say is Star Wars Destiny is just 2 players, right? Or is it?
Yeah.
You can only. Okay.
I think it's only 2 players.
Okay. That's what I thought.
The base game certainly is.
I just picked up a copy of it, and I only paid $10 for it. So, so yeah, same with me. I'm like, oh yeah, I really need another collectible game, but for $10, I'll give it a spin and see what it's like. So I'm sure I'll like it.
And it's still fun in the base game. It's just one of those games where you're like, this is a lot of fun. I'm ready for some more cards already, dice already.
Yeah.
Which is what they want you to think.
So I've got to ask, Scott, I was thinking about this while you guys were talking about Destiny just now. What did you trade for Eldritch?
I have no idea. I can find out and get back with you because, I trade on the Geek, and it keeps track of all your trades and what they were. So
Yeah.
I will get back with you.
It's a great game.
So I'll talk a little bit about a couple games that have been on my table recently. We actually had a really fun game night this last weekend where we call it our camping buddies. We got together. We used to, before we had kids, we had a group of friends that we would go camping with, usually Memorial and Labor Day weekends. And every now and then we get together with them and play games. And some of them are very casual players, and some of them, like myself and my friend Alex, are hardcore gamers. And so I tried to find some games that were kind of that sweet spot that would be enjoyable for the heavier gamers and the casual gamers alike. And we played, Ethnos was the first thing that we pulled out, and it was interesting. I thought it'd be a little easier for some of the really casual players to pick up on, and it took them really through that first age. So for those who don't know, Ethnos, I always describe it as almost like a gin rummy thing where you're playing a set of cards that are either the same type or the same color, and when you do that, you're trying to do area control. And as you play the game, you go through the deck 3 times, and they call that an age when you go through the deck. And it really took through that first age for everybody to really understand the different rules and why you could only do this and not this. But once we got to that second age, the game picked up really well, and everybody was really into it and really understood the strategies behind everything, which was really cool to kind of see that learning curve just kick into high gear. Really fun game. We'll talk about it some more probably later on in the show, but Ethnos is a quality game. It's really cool. I'm a big fan of it. I didn't play this that night, but we've been playing Mana Surge, my boys and I, which is a ladder style trick taker, which you're casting a spell. You're like wizards or whatever, and you're casting a spell in either direction, and players can either resonate with that, which will score them points, or they can try to counter it and send it back to you. It's almost like a super tricked up Uno, where
totally like that, yeah,
like you're trying to get rid of your cards, and there's cards that can counter it and turn it the other direction. And but it's a great little game from Daily Magic, and I don't think many people know about this game. Like, it just kind of like snuck out there, and it's out there being awesome, but nobody knows about it. I think it's great. But I did play with my camping group, World Championship Russian Roulette, which is super awesome because there are some folks. So the whole gun thing for some of these folks is like a big deal. And they're like, are those bullets? Are there bullets in this game? Because the point tokens are all bullet shaped. But it turned into just raucous laughter, and we were just having a great time with it. It's so fun. And I mean, people that were just lying the whole time about what they were doing, really, really good time. And then we closed out that night with a game of Wordsy, which is probably, I don't know if I'd say it just yet, but it's probably one of my favorite word games.
You can say it. It's fantastic.
It's really, really good. It's one of the only word games I know that you're not restricted to the letters that you see on the table. You can write a word of any length using any letters in the alphabet, but you only score points for the ones that are on the table. So it doesn't restrict you to trying to like learn, like if you play Boggle, like people learn these goofy 2-letter words that aren't words that any known American uses in any civilized conversation, but they're in a dictionary somewhere and they use them. But this is like, you just use common words that and you just try to use letters that are on the board and score points. It's really cool. It's really easy to learn, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what's been on my table.
Nice.
Yeah.
Our tables are full of fun.
Yes. It's been a lot of gaming recently, which is always a good thing.
It does seem like there's been a lot of gaming from all of us, which sometimes, some of us aren't getting stuff to the table.
Yeah, sometimes we're like scratching our heads like, oh geez, what am I going? But yeah,
I never have that problem.
I know.
No. That's good.
All right.
Hey,
So,
I found out what I traded Eldritch Horror for.
oh,
All right, let's hear it.
So I had Belfort. Do you guys remember that game? It was from Tasty Minstrel Games.
yes. I don't know if I have that.
I'm not familiar.
It came out a few years ago. It's a worker placement game with a strong fantasy theme and a super colorful artwork. And so I had Belfort and the expansion and then a promo pack. And so someone traded me Eldritch Horror, Forsaken Lore, and Onitama. And I was like, yes.
Wow.
So wait a minute. How big was this game, this TMG game that you had? Was it like a lot of components and stuff? Or
No, but it was out of print.
okay.
Especially the expansion. The expansion was super hard to get. And I thought the game was fine, but I didn't think it was that great. So when they offered that, I was like, you bet your sweet bippy I'll do that.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds like a great trade.
Onitama is amazing.
Yes, it's one of my favorites immediately.
Yeah. Time for a little bit of fire and ice. Should we go in the order that they're written on our sheet so there's no confusion and we can it'll be like seamless and smooth and awesome?
Yeah, we should give that a try.
That's why you edit.
I feel like we need a third element now to this to this segment because it's fire and ice and
gas.
How did I get to be the gas?
No, not necessarily.
It's
not tied to a person. Oh wait, yeah, it is.
It's exactly what they are.
Oh gosh.
All right, so I will go first.
What would that even mean?
I don't
a game
even
that's
know.
bloated and maybe too big for
it, or it's a real stinker. I don't know. I fart in the general direction of this game.
Oh, it could be games that are like Mana Surge that fly under the radar. It's silent but deadly.
There are those.
I like it. Okay, so my fire game is if you may have guessed already, it's Ethnos. Again, I don't know if we mentioned this from Simon Games. They released it sometime, I want to say it's last year. It's a little bit newer, maybe.
It's not that old, yeah.
Yeah, so it's so good. I know Scott, and I tend to agree, the artwork isn't so great on it. It could have been a little more epic because all the different types of cards they call them tribes, right? So it's like wizards and giants and centaurs and all that kind of stuff. So it probably could have been more epic, but regardless of that, the game is great and it's just a lot of fun to play.
I'm just curious to see it because I really like the game, and we talked about the fact that it just kind of moves really fast at some points where people are just draw,
Yeah.
because you know what you want to do, and I'm okay with that. But I really want to see this game expand a little bit because I think there's a lot more that could happen with the tribes to even maybe make you think a little bit more about who you're going to draw when you're going to draw it.
Playing with some more casual players, those decisions of when to draw and when to play they were really weighted pretty heavily, especially with the whole dragon card mechanism. So again, for folks who don't know the game necessarily, there's these 3 dragon cards that get shuffled in. And when you draw that third one out of there, that ends the age. So you don't know when that's coming. It could be 20 cards left. There could be 2 cards left. You just don't know. So once you start after you get that second dragon card, it really becomes kind of a lot of tense moments of, oh man, I don't want them. I'm putting cards down face up for them to draw because I don't want them to draw from the deck because I'm really trying to pull something off. And there's 12 tribes in the box already, and you only play with 6 every game, and you can really mix them up. So I think the replay value is pretty high. I don't know. I think it's great, and it's definitely ripe for expansion. They could easily expand. Put a pack of 4 more tribes out and really kind of boost it up.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, the biggest aesthetic complaint is the board. If this is an epic and tribes and fantasy. And then you look at the board and it just looks like some
It's-
boring map of England or something
It's
like
a
that. You're
beige
like,
island.
oh my goodness, it's incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And there's just no way a game like that should ever be boring in any aspect of it.
Right.
But it's still fun.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
All right, AJ, what's your fire game?
Good stuff. So again, here it is again. Thunderstone Quest. I love it. I'm having so much fun with it. And one of my favorite things about it is my wife, Rachel, absolutely loves the game. I mean, we said, like, this is being totally immersed into the fantasy theme with all these fantasy characters, zombies, the undead, and it's all this cool stuff that I love and that a lot of, okay, I'm not going to generalize here. My wife would typically look at and say, not interested. But she loves it, and we've been having a great time playing it. And not only that, the game is totally 100% overproduced. And there's miniatures for the sake of miniatures. There's player boards for the sake of player boards.
Stretch goals.
Yeah, totally. And at the price they're selling it for, you better be getting all the bells and whistles. But I'll say this: when you have it all in front of you, it's like, I want this. I can't imagine the game without it. Sure, I could play without this, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at, and what I think is really the nail in the coffin for this. Yeah, I guess that's a totally wrong analogy to make, but what really seals the deal for this game for me is the fact that everybody has an opportunity to buy the same cards. There's no randomness to the cards coming out. It's just incredible. You have to strategize what cards you're going to take and how you're going to use them. And, if you don't have money to spend on cards on your turn, there's always a dungeon that's available for you to slay monsters. You don't have to pick and choose whatever's in the trade row like a lot of deck builders. This game has, you have the choices and the options to use the cards in your hand and not feel like, oh, crap, I had a terrible draw. I don't know what to do now. Well, if you have a terrible draw, you're still going to be able to do something really cool, even with the worst hand possible. So I love Thunderstone. I've got to stop talking about it now on our podcast. I've got to stop talking about it on Board Games FM. I just got to be done. Just go get Thunderstone when it comes out. You're going to enjoy it. It's really good.
It's the whole it's what makes Dominion so good, is because everybody has the same opportunity to get the same cards, which is why I've always said Dominion is the best deck builder. Even though, Star Realms really gave it a run for its money, which I think is still a great game, I think Thunderstone Quest gives Dominion a better run for its money because it doesn't have that lineup thing where you're just randomly dealing cards out and you hope that a card comes out on your turn that you can get that's going to work with what you're trying to do. I played it the one time at AJ's house and had a really good time with it. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's truly worth the hype if you ask me.
So that's fire for me.
Well, speaking of talking about something too much.
Here we go.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Wait, before you go, Scott, speaking of talking about something too much, how about Jeremiah always talking about Dominion?
What?
Never.
When's the last time I talked about Dominion?
Every time we talk about deck builders, it's Dominion all the time.
I just think it's the best one it's the first one. It was the best one.
I agree. It is the best one. It's also the one I will never own because it's got the most boring theme in the history of time.
It is a very boring theme.
Okay, so my fire is Gaia Project. Shock for anyone who's listening to Board Games FM.
Yeah, big shock.
No, here's the deal. We played again on Tuesday, and I have played almost every single week since the beginning of the year when we discovered this game. It is fantastic. If you have ever played Terra Mystica, you'll love this game because it's Terra Mystica, only better. And there are 14 different factions, and it's a modular board. So unlike Terra Mystica, which was not good with 2 players, Gaia Project is good with 2 players. And there are 14 different factions. Each of them plays uniquely, and I have not played a faction twice. and I'm having a blast. And I suck at this game really badly. But it's one of those games where if you only play it once, you might be like, I don't see what the big deal is about that. But it's really one of those games where if you are willing to put in a number of games and get better at it and learn the nuances of it, it will reward you. Gaia Project is a perfect 10 for me.
Wow.
It might be the best Euro that exists.
I can't say anything about that because I've never played it. So
I know that's a crazy thing to say, but it is a
crazy thing to say.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll actually probably end up getting a copy of it. I'm trying to decide with what I'm doing with my bountiful amount of money that I got in store credit from the flea market at our friendly local game store. But I'm thinking this might be on it just because of all the adoration and accolades and pomp and circumstance surrounding it.
I know it's crazy. I haven't had a game affect me this much in a long time, but every single week it's showing up multiple copies because people play it and immediately buy it, even though it's ridiculously expensive. Yeah. Wow. So there's like 6 copies in the group.
It's like $100 game.
What?
It's like $100 game, right?
Yes, that's the MSRP. It's crazy, and I fully admit that. But every single week, if somebody next week is like, "Hey, you want to play Gaia Project?" Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. I'm not sick of it yet.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll pick it up here and give it a spin. So cool. Well, you know what time it is. Cool. Yeah. It's time for that icy segment. The icy portion of the segment, I suppose. So these are games that maybe they're not necessarily bad games, but we're good on that for right now. So I think AJ is up first on this one. What do you got, AJ?
All right. Lord of the Rings deck building by Cryptozoic Games. Now, if you checked out any of their deck building games, they're all very similar. I think they've got about maybe 4 or 5 that have used the same deck building system. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which ones they are. I know there's the DC and the Lord of the Rings, and I'll have to look it up. I know there's several of them that are all the same engine.
Yeah, they've got a couple, and they're very, very simplistic. You basically have one symbol on your card, which is like a power symbol, and then the card cost. And the power will help you buy cards, and it will help you defeat enemies. And really simplistic, really entry level. And I love it because I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. So I love getting these cards out to my table because right now Lord of the Rings LCG is kind of put aside for right now, which is one of the best games I've ever played. But that aside, if I want to get Lord of the Rings to the table and do it quickly, we've been playing the deck building game. But there's so much randomness in this game that has nothing to do with the theme. A bad guy will come out, an enemy will come out, and it'll say like, trade hands with the person across from you and discard one card from there. It's like, okay.
I hate that garbage.
Yeah, it's draw a card, and if it costs you an odd number, if it costs you an even number, discard your whole hand and lose a turn. And it's like, wait a minute, this isn't even thematic. I'm not getting dealt like a melee blow or something from some enemy. I'm just discarding cards for the sake of some random thing. So I'm putting that aside for right now, and I will say this. That random crap that we had came with these impossible monsters that you can add into the game. I don't remember with the basic monsters if they have so much random weirdness, but in any case, I'm putting it aside. I've got too many other good deck builders right now. Eldorado, Dominion, Thunderstone, all that good stuff. Other good stuff to play, not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so there's Lord of the Rings, there's DC, there's a bunch of like Adventure Time or like Cartoon Network type IP. I'm just kind of scrolling through the big list on their site, but yeah, there's a bunch of them, and like we said, it's the same mechanism, it's the same engine, so you can literally like interchange cards or like shuffle decks together and things like that to make a game that is a crossover type thing. So yeah, there it is. All right, Scott, you've got an ice game on the list. What is frosting over for you?
It's a nuclear winter for me because the game for me is Fallout.
Fallout
This
Boy?
is no. Although I don't like them either.
Because that happened about 12 years ago.
Yeah. This is Fallout, the game from Fantasy Flight, based on the video games, which I'm a huge fan of. Fallout 3 is one of my favorite video games of all time. And Fallout, the board game, actually follows quite a bit of the missions that you would see in the video games. And so we were playing along the other night when we played it, and it was the Pit, which is one of the expansion missions that came with Fallout 3, and you're going to Pittsburgh and trying to save some slaves and things like that. It's super thematic. I mean, they really put a lot of thematic love into this game, and if you play the game at all, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I love that. That character is great. And it's got this really clever storytelling thing where if you'll run into certain cards that will kind of start a series of cards that might be shuffled into the deck. And so you might meet a character, and then it says, okay, shuffle these 6 cards into the deck. And you will interact with these other cards that relate back to that first card. And so it's kind of building this story, and unique things can happen and decisions. It's really thematic, really cool, and really, really random. And it just kills this game because I want it to be so good, and it is so not good. You have these secret objectives that you get at the beginning of the game, and so you're trying to build up on this victory point thing, these different factions. Well, you might be the only one in the game who got faction A. Everyone else secretly got faction B, and so it's almost impossible for you to get your faction up because everyone else is working in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then there are ways in the game later that you can draw new scoring cards. Well, you might get the one that everyone else is working on. And so now you have 2 scoring cards that work at cross purposes. It's so dumb. I can't believe how stupid this is. And that's probably the worst thing about the game. You can house rule things, I'm sure, but I just don't have time for that or the inclination because I just don't care. I have too many games to play.
All right. So, unlike what has been changed on our show sheet here, my ice game is, and AJ is going to bellow and wail and just be, I know he doesn't agree
Gnash
with me.
his teeth.
I just can't believe this.
It's Defenders of the Realm. So here's the thing with Defenders of the Realm. It's a solid game. I'll give you that. And we actually, I think probably the first time that I've actually beaten it was recently when I went over to AJ's and we had a game night and there were 4 of us. And I was like, I came in and I saw it on the table. I was like, I don't know. I wasn't really in the mood for this game, but I know AJ loves it. And hey, we're going to lose in like 3 turns anyway. So we'll just get on to something else. And like an hour and a half later, on the last possible roll of the dice, we beat the last general and we win, and there was much rejoicing. And yay. And I don't know.
Can I just hold on? There was much rejoicing. I seem to remember us actually cheering.
It sounds exciting.
You were cheering. I was just like, okay, good. The game's over.
Maybe I saw it differently in my mind. Go ahead, blast it.
But to me, it's too much like Pandemic. You know, there's areas and then they get tainted and then they spread and it's overrun and it's whatever. And I just feel like it's a co-op game that came out after Pandemic came out, and they said, let's put it in a fantasy realm. And yeah, there's more wrinkles to it, and there's other things that happen. I get all that, but I don't know. I just it for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason is. It just doesn't strike the chord that it does, and so many other people for me. So I don't know. I'm good on that one for a while. That's my opinion, which is worth whatever that means.
I can see where you come from on that. And I'm not going to try and defend it or anything. I just think that For me, the difference is where you see it as like a new skin. I think there's a lot of advancements that they've made to it. It's like when you've seen or like we've been talking about deck builders already tonight, but when you see a deck builder in its simplest form, and then you see what some other designers do with that mechanism, right. I kind of think that I see it more than a skin. So I really like it, but I can understand. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So there it is. That's Fire and Ice. I say we wrap that one up and we move on to
fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Hey everyone, let's fill in the blank.
Oh, I forgot there's a song every time.
Come on,
the
rookie.
Dumbest thing.
Come on, rookie.
Gotta get on board with that.
Get on the trolley.
This is why you're gas.
All right, it's coming next episode. Fire, Ice, and Gas. A game you're calling from your collection. Who knows?
Right. All right, so we have two fill in the blanks this time, and one is I just did this to put in here to dig at Scott. So this one, the first one is I've been to blank number of Origins game conventions.
0.
AJ, do you have that number? Do you know?
I would only have that number based on yours. I think I didn't go with you the first year that you went, and then started from then on. So
by my count, I've been to 9.
Holy cow!
I went in 09. So 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, and I haven't missed a year since then. So 09 was the first year. The first year that I went, this is the crazy thing about Origins. Like they used to bring in like it's pretty much solid gaming now. Like There's some artists, there's like an art hall where you can go see artwork, and some artists have exhibits or booths in the exhibit hall. But they used to bring in like celebrities, and like Will Wheaton was there one year. The first year we were there as Theology of Games, I actually interviewed, I'm blanking on his name.
Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin Sorbo, yeah, who was Hercules and Stargate SG-1 and all that stuff. But the very first year that I went, we just went down for a day, and I took my wife and the boys, and we met Peter Mayhew. He was sitting in the exhibit hall signing autographs, selling pictures and autographs. And I said, can we just get a picture with you? And he's like, sure. And he sat there, and I held the boys, and we took pictures with Peter Mayhew. And, but it was just the most bizarre thing. I was like, holy crap, that's Peter Mayhew. What is he doing here? And
he was probably asking himself the same thing.
Right. And there's never been anything like that ever again. I'm like, why not? But I understand because it's grown so much over the last 9 years. It's been a lot. So yeah, I think it's 9 that I've been to.
And I'm probably about 8.
Yeah, I think you missed maybe 1.
Whatever, let's move on.
But we're gonna change that, right, Scott? You're gonna get your 1, right?
Totally.
Excellent. So, all right, your most anticipated Kickstarter is blank.
Mine is definitely Edge of Darkness. I've actually backed this game. It's it hit Kickstarter around the same time that I was getting Thunderstone in the mail. I thought, are you kidding me? I just got my project that I backed, and now I'm backing another project already. And Edge of Darkness is going to be a really cool game. It's going to use that card crafting mechanism that we saw in Mystic Vale, and it's going to do so much more. So it's only got a couple days left on Kickstarter if you want to check it out, but it's going to be sweet. So I'm excited about that. June 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while.
For me, it is Argent the Consortium. Now, I already own Argent the Consortium, but this is going to be upgraded components and rebalanced a few cards. And then it's been out of print for a while, so people who didn't get in the first one can now get this game for themselves. And I highly recommend it. It is from Level 99 Games, who did Millennium Blades and the BattleCon system. And this is a worker placement game with lots of aggression. You are knocking people out. Yes. You are messing with their plans. There are secret goals. It's such a terrific game.
That's cool. You've talked this one up a lot, and I hope to get a hold of it as well. But mine, I was going to say Edge of Darkness because we've talked a lot about that recently, especially over on Board Games FM. And I actually interviewed the designer on my other show, That's How I Roll. So I'm way excited about Edge of Darkness. Don't get me wrong. But this one, I actually need to look up the updates and see when it's printing, because we did an interview with the designer of this game a while ago. It was just a written interview that we posted on the blog, and it's Carthage, the game. And it seems like a really cool melding of a couple different gaming types. So it is basically, from what I know of it, is a deck builder with a minis like skirmish game. So you're in this arena, you've got your mini, your gladiator, but you control him with deck building. You have to play cards for actions and movement, and you can gain cards that'll give you special attacks and things like that. It just seems like a really cool twist on a game. We've seen a million sort of boiled down Arena for the Gods, where it's this game that you put your guy in the thing, you try to beat each other up by playing cards. And we've seen a million deck builders, but this seems like a really cool combination of the two. And so I think that's going to be an interesting one. And of course, I'm excited about Edge of Darkness and Werewords Deluxe as well.
Werewords is amazing.
Werewords is amazing. That was the other one I forgot to mention when we were talking about On the Table. We played a handful of rounds of Werewords, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is our new go-to filler. I haven't played the Resistance in probably 4 months because we're always like, let's just play Werewords.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's really fun. So, and it was actually, that was the first time I got to play it with only adults because we had been playing with my kids so much, which is great and fun, but they typically pick easy words and things like that. So we actually busted out some of the medium and difficult words, and it was fun. It was interesting. It was a different experience for sure.
Those hard words are hard.
Yes. So very cool. All right. Well, we're rounding the corner here on this episode, and it's time for lightning round, or the not so lightning round.
We'll try to be fast.
All right. So first question up is lightning round. What show are you watching with your wife because you love her? Who wrote this one?
I wrote this one.
So you've got something.
Yeah, I do. I have been watching The Crown with my wife because I love her. It is not at all the kind of show I would ever watch.
I hear it's good if that's the kind of show you like.
Yeah, I just wish I knew how much of it was real and how much of it was licensed. Because you're watching these things, you're like, did that really happen? So every night we'll watch it, and then I'll be laying in bed on my phone going,
you're Googling.
Oh, that really happened. Huh, what do you know?
Yeah. I watched the first 3 episodes of The Crown. I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen any of it. I think my wife has watched it, but I have not. All right, AJ, what do you got?
Well, on that note, I actually enjoy English drama, and so Rachel and I are watching, and I'm not just doing this because I love her. I'm doing it because I really like the show too. We're actually watching the show Victoria, which is also about an English queen, and it's pretty accurate because I do the same thing. As soon as I finish an episode, I'm like, okay, how much of that was real? Because I don't know.
You're over on Hillary Clinton's fact-checking site, aren't you?
Listen, I'm a history buff and I like that kind of stuff. So English drama does not put me off at all, especially if there's some historical fiction or nonfiction too. So
yeah. I don't know that I have a show that I'm actually like sitting and watching through with my wife, but I'll often, she's been watching that 911 show, which is on network television. It's basically about like first responders. And so they like have the one 911 operator, the phone operator, and then they follow like a couple of firefighters and a police officer and stuff. It's interesting and entertaining on a level. And then she's also watching The Good Doctor, which is about the surgeon who has autism, who's played by the guy that played Norman Bates in the Bates Motel series. And it's, I don't know, medical dramas I can take or leave, but I'll sit down and watch it. And sometimes, I'll be working on my laptop or whatever, and she'll turn stuff on, and I'll kind of have half an ear on it or whatever. But I don't know that there's anything that we're both like actively watching that neither of us enjoys, a lot. So yeah, should we move on? That was
all right.
That was a
Question
little faster.
Number 2. That was what?
That was a little faster, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think these are going to take that long.
Maybe.
Number 2.
Lightning round.
Most anticipated summer movie.
What counts as summer?
Not spring and not fall.
Well, so Jeremiah, we get the month of July. I don't know when this movie's coming out actually, but I think it is summer 2018. It's the Han Solo spinoff.
Yeah, it comes out May 18th.
Okay,
or no, I'm sorry, May 25th.
All right, yeah, I'm excited about it. I don't know that I'm gonna enjoy it as much as I hope I'm going to, because I think we all have this image of who Han Solo is, and Han Solo is Harrison Ford. And I think I think there's going to be a huge disappointment in the fact that this kid is not Harrison Ford.
Yeah. That's actually probably my most. That's going to be my answer too. Is the Solo movie? I had it. Somebody posted, when the first trailer hit or whatever, and they said an interesting take on it was, I don't want to see the scene where he wins the Falcon from Lando, or I don't want to see how him and Chewie, how he has this life debt to Han. Like, I've already pictured those scenes in my mind. Like, I've already, I was a kid and I thought about those things. Like, so I don't want that to be ruined by a cinematic interpretation of it. I thought that was a really interesting take. Like, in a way, if it can be done in a clever and really imaginative and creative way, I guess I'd like to see it. But at the same time, I don't need to. Like, I know it happened and I'm good with it, so I don't know what part of the story they need to tell.
That guy better prepare to be disappointed, because I'm sure they're going to tell those things, or they'll get murdered for it.
Yeah.
Right? If they don't tell those stories.
Yeah.
We're going to see the Kessel Run. We're going to see it. Yeah, it's going to be there.
Right. And making the Kessel Run on 12 parsecs. And yeah. So we'll see. What about you, Scott? What's your most anticipated movie of the summer?
I'm looking forward to Solo, but I really can't wait for The Incredibles 2, because the first Incredibles is far and away my favorite Pixar movie. I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
And it's not just about superheroes, it's about family. Mm-hmm. And I love that movie. And so I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the next one.
Yeah. And that one came out of nowhere, because it was like, it's been almost 10 years, I think.
Yeah, at least probably.
Since the first one. And it never was even crossed my mind. Like, oh, I wonder when that Incredibles 2 is coming out. Because, there's been so many other Pixar films and whatever. But yeah. And Pixar seems, typically you think, oh, well, the sequel always is terrible. But Pixar, it's not the case. Like, they've made some really good sequels to their films. So,
Yes, absolutely.
that's going to be a good one, I think. Lightning round. All right, what is your favorite? Now, I said canceled, but I would just say sitcom that's no longer on the air. So, I mean, you can go way back or as recent as something that is no longer on the air as of yesterday.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
that one was not as professionally done as other pieces.
No.
So the first thing that came to mind, I'm not sure it's my favorite, but man, I loved Community. It was, that show is so clever and smart and hilarious, and the characters, and even you can ask the guys, so often when I post a GIF for them, it's Senior Chang, like all the time, because that guy is hilarious. So Community for me is just the perfect show. There were times where it dragged a little bit, and they got rid of the showrunner for one of the years for some reason. There's all kinds of drama with it, but when he left, like the show just dropped precipitously how the quality of it. So then they brought him back, and it's been up and down. But the first 2 or 3 seasons of that show is just incredible.
So, favorite canceled sitcom. I absolutely love, and I've probably seen this show all the way through 11 seasons at least 3 times, and that's not a joke. And you guys are going to be like, "Are you kidding me?"
I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
I'm going to say Frasier.
Frasier. I have seen it so many times. I absolutely love this show, and I one of the reasons why is I love
because you're a middle-aged white woman.
No, well, the fact is these guys are incredibly cultured, and some of their humor is it's like who would actually get that? And unless you're in some sort of niche that these jokes would fall into. By the way, I'm a music teacher, and it was a music major. So they make all these jokes and references to like this music stuff. I absolutely love it. And I think, how did the show last this long? If there's people out there, I mean, how would they even get some of these jokes? I don't even get some of them, but that's the reason I love MST3K so much is you don't get every joke on MST3K, but you're like, how are these guys so amazingly cultured that they can just make this stuff up? And that's kind of what Frasier was for me. It's just like, the jokes it wasn't just situational irony. It's not just sexual humor. It's not just slapstick. They're actually clever jokes. So I love that show. Canceled, and I'm sad that it's gone.
Yeah. I would have said Mystery Science Theater 3000 actually, but it's not canceled anymore. So there's another season on the way from what I hear too. But mine is not Frasier. And I'm actually, I need to flip a coin because it's actually between 2, but I'll say it's not Seinfeld, although Seinfeld is razor thin margin. But for me, it's probably got to be The Office. The amazing thing with that is everybody thinks of The Office and they go, oh yeah, Michael Scott, Steve Carell, he's so funny, it's so great. But the ensemble of characters in that show is so hilarious that when he left, even those last, I think it's 3 seasons, maybe 4, the show was still just as funny without him on it. And it is so, I almost annually watch through that whole series, and it's so funny. I love it. It's so good. Lightning round. This is the last one. Yeah. So Scott, you guys already had spring break, right?
Yeah, last week was spring break.
So this is like a non-time, I don't know. Anyway, what are your spring break plans? So for us in Ohio, spring break is coming up this week. Actually, we're recording on a Thursday. Tomorrow's our last day of school for my boys. I think you're on the same schedule, AJ, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So next week is spring break because it doesn't feel like spring yet. It's probably even a little premature here, but
we'll build snowman. And,
yes, go sledding and all the fun winter activities on spring break. So Scott, why don't we start with you and just tell us what you did on spring break, and we'll talk about our plans for spring break.
I worked for spring break.
Yay!
I did take one day off, and we just kind of hung out as a family, and we watched movies and played games and stayed in our pajamas all day long, and it was terrific.
That's awesome.
And then my wife took the boys off and did stuff every day with them, so that was great.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, AJ, what are your plans?
Rachel and I will probably go up to Rochester, New York, where my brother and sister live.
Oh, yeah.
They're also gamers, and they get hot on some games. And right now they're loving Whitechapel, and I've got no problem with that because I still really enjoy that game. So
good game, yeah.
So we'll go up to New York for a few days and then come back and relax the rest of the time.
Cool. We really don't have any plans other than we've got like house project plans. Like we want to move our boys into the bedroom that's in the basement and sort of make their current room the baby's room and things like that. But we had talked about going away on spring break and taking some sort of trip and whatever. But about 3 weeks ago, we went away for a week and went to Disney. And right after we booked that, my wife goes, "So we're not going anywhere for spring break?" I was like, I guess not. So we're probably more or less just kind of stay home. I'm sure we'll play some games, have some movie nights and stuff like that. But we definitely want to kind of make some shifts in the house and get those things rolling and kind of get us settled before summer starts.
Fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yay. So that's it. That wraps up Lightning round. And that's it. We're done. Show's over. Go home, everybody.
Episode 22 is in the can.
Yeah. So before we say goodbye, once again, want to thank AJ for joining us. Welcome to the crew. Glad to have you along.
Absolutely.
And
thank you guys.
Yeah. And remind everybody that if you like this show, subscribing on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or TuneIn or any of the places that you're listening to this just is awesome. Subscribe, give us a rating and a review. We love that kind of stuff. It really helps other folks that might enjoy it find the show as well. Or if you want to interact with us, you can always email us, theologyofgames@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and where else are we? Are we on Pinterest still? I think we're on Pinterest.
I don't know.
That was Scott's brainchild.
I said, why not? And you know what? Every once in a while, we still get a thing that says, hey, somebody pinned one of your reviews. Great.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there it is. But yeah, find us on social media. We love it when we hear from our listeners and folks who read the blog and all that stuff.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Anybody else have anything to add?
No. See you later.
All right. We're out of here.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.
Gaia Project.